Squid Game is, as I mentioned, literally Netflix's most popular show ever in the English language or non-English language. It doesn't need any sort of sort of parameter in that respect. It came out in 2021, season 1, and that's a show that we did end up reviewing. And it was released to not only international attention but also critical acclaim. It was a damn good show. People loved it. Critics loved it. It went on to be their most watched series of all time, but then it also picked up a ton of awards. It won 6 Emmy Awards, it won Golden Globes, it won all sorts of things, and it pretty much put a lot of the cast on the map, in particular Ling Jung-jae, the main lead of the series. He's become, sort of an international sensation. We just saw him earlier this year in The Acolyte over at Lucasfilm and Star Wars, and now he's returning here as the main lead in the second season of Squid Game. And they have also confirmed now, this is no surprise and no spoiler at this point, it's been out for a few weeks, that the next season of Squid Game Season 3, will be the final season. And so Hwang Dong-hyuk, when he was writing this, he knew that he wanted to tell really sort of an isolated, conclusive story, and he wasn't going to continue this and make 7 or 8 seasons. He pretty much had the story that he wanted to tell, but they certainly drew him back in. After the success of that first one, he did not have intentions on making another season because he said that it took him years to make that first season. In fact, he was shopping it around for, I think, a good 10 or 11 years to every studio possible, and everybody said no until Netflix finally took a gamble on him. And then once it became super successful, he decided to make this rounding out, conclusive story in this sort of separated second season, I would say, that's going to be released in 2 parts. But we got the first half of it over the holiday break and gotten a chance to check out the episodes that have come out. So with all of that out of the way, man, I'll pass it to you. What did you think about the newest installment of Squid Game?
Or as the black people like to call it, Squid Games. We love to add an S to something, boy. Sonics. And
why does that happen? I've noticed that Squid Games has come out of a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah, a lot. Shoot, The Rock said it. I was like, Squid Games. I was like, we really be throwing an S on this thing, man. It's crazy. It's really funny. I don't know. But man, season 2. I was already skeptical, I think, of a season 2 of Squid Game, knowing that it was originally really supposed to be that one series, that one season, whatever you call it. It was supposed to be limited. Long story short. So to hear that a season 2 was going to be made, I could understand it. Like you said, it's a very successful show, very successful for Netflix. And I kind of got it. It's like, okay, I get it. Make a season 2, do what you want to do. I think season 2 is season 1 just watered down a little bit. It's not as good. It's not as fresh. They're hitting a lot of the same beats that we have done before, but every now and then we'll throw in a slight or small little curveball to try to let you know that it's season 2. In fact, it feels like I would even call it 1.5. To me, it's not enough of its own thing to really feel like a season 2 for me. It really is not even till the last 2 episodes that really feel even completely different than what we got in the first season. So I can't really sit here and say like, yeah, this is a new thing. It's fresh. It's not. But that being said, it's also, I'm not going to say it's not entertaining still. There are still things about it that's very watchable. I still wanted to see what was going to happen. It wasn't like I was super bored or anything. It's just unfortunate that a lot of it just kind of lacked originality and that it was repetitive. That's too bad about it, but I'm still impressed that they were able to keep my attention the way that they did. I did still want to see where this thing was going. I still did want to see where things were headed. So I think it's still a compelling TV show. I like the commitment to try to do this thing a little bit different. And I think in some ways, I don't an unfinished ending kind of feels weird still. It's like, okay, what are we going and what are we doing here? But I think it's still a fine. I still would call it a good season. What's also interesting is, in some ways, you don't even have to watch the first season. You could actually turn this on season 2 and get the story, and I think have a completely new reaction to it. Like if somebody had never seen season 1 and jumped into season 2, they'd be like, wow, this show is crazy. What's going on? And I would understand why they would give that reaction. But a lot of us aren't in that boat. A lot of us seen season 1 and it was just fine. It was just like, oh, this is cool. We're doing it again. See, I call it Squid Game 1.5 for those reasons. But yeah, it was fine, man. I enjoyed the watch. I wasn't too mad at it, but I wish we got something a little bit more new and fresh that came with this season.
So the first Squid Game, It's phenomenal. It's really, really phenomenal. I enjoyed it so much. Hwang Dong-hyuk, he talked a lot about his inspiration for the film, or excuse me, the series, really speaking to a lot of the class issues that have existed in South Korea and with his own upbringing, and that's all very valid. But you can also tell that Squid Game and a lot of these other sort of South Korean shows that have come out on Netflix lately, and even other film franchises here in Hollywood, they're pulling so much inspiration from Battle Royale that came out in 2000, the
Hmm.
Japanese film, which is just a phenomenal film, which spoke to a lot of like the political nature of the country and how it tied in with this really, really vicious game that was being played by youth of that particular generation. So to see that sort of updated in a modern day context and to have a lot of people discover it was a really, really exciting thing, I think, for many fans and for many people coming into season two. Also very apprehensive because the first one just, I think, tied a very neat bow on the story that they were trying to tell, and it was just so good that you just have to be a little bit concerned about what's really going to be the value proposition of revisiting this world once again, especially
Hmm.
knowing that that was not the original intention. And after watching all of Squid Game season two, I am surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I
Hmm.
thought that it was still pretty damn good. It's certainly nowhere near the level of season one. That was never in the cards, and I never thought
Yeah.
that that was going to be the case. But I still really liked it, and I was a little even more surprised at how long it kind of actually took to get back to the games. The first two episodes are not even about the games at all. It's about trying to, sort of where we left off in the first season, find the front man, find who's
Right.
responsible for this stuff. And so it's just sort of playing like a detective thriller in the first two episodes. And I thought that that was like really cool because you have to change up the pace and you have to do something different and you have to like ease us back into that crazy Squid Game world once the games
Hmm.
begin. And we've seen that done before in other adaptations of this type of story, this type of material. But I thought that that stuff was like a really, really good way to get us back into the world. Now, once we got back into the games initially, once you start to see some of the similar things that we did see in season one, I think in the middle where it became a little bit, sort of lapsed for me. But then by the end of it, it picks up a lot of steam for me.
Hmm.
It picks up a lot of energy because you start to feel the sense of urgency, especially on the part of the main character, Ji Hoon, and just like what he's after,
Hmm.
played by Lee Jung Jae. He's really kind of the main force here that's trying to destroy this whole system
Yeah.
that's in place. And he's trying to, in essence, kind of build an army around him to do that. But you have to do that very intelligently, very methodically, because he's being watched all around by these people. And so I found that the creativity wasn't in the games themselves per se, because you
Hmm.
can only do so many games. Because a lot of these are based on like real games that are played in South Korea. I did find like a little bit more creativity was paid in part to the story and how we ended up here and some of the new characters and how they sort of work with the character of Ji Hoon to ultimately, sort of become a part of this rebellion in essence. And by the end of it, with sort of the, I guess you can call it a cliffhanger leading into the final season, I thought that that was the perfect place to end it.
Yeah.
You talk about act structure, first act, second act, third act. Like there is a part in the story where things have to be the worst that they can possibly be. It cannot get any worse than that. And that's where you want to hook people. That's where you want to draw them in to make sure that they're going to
Yeah.
come back for season three and ultimately conclude out the story. And I think what they did here in particular between Lee Jung Jae and Lee Byung Hoon, who's also like a really iconic South Korean actor. He's just like, he's so great.
Yeah.
He plays the front man in the show. Like
Yeah.
those two guys together, I can watch them all day. Like
Yeah. They be cooking.
they are so electric with each other. They have so much chemistry. You can just feel the gravitas in their performances, and they're on a collision course. And I thought that that stuff was told in a really, really great way. My only one big drawback, obviously outside of the obvious, and in comparison to season one, is that the supporting characters aren't as lively and as colorful as the supporting characters in the first season. Like they're
Mm.
fine. There's certain characters that are,
Thanos.
interesting. Ignore, he's just ridiculous. But there's some other characters that are like fine, but there was
Yeah.
nobody that really hooked me like the supporting characters in that first season. I thought that the ensemble in the first season was significantly better than the
Mhm.
ensemble that we found in season two. That's my one big drawback, but gotta say, man, for a second act in this story to come back and do something that you didn't intend to do and to still deliver this level of quality, I got to give them respect, and shout them out for this effort, because I still found myself really entertained and really enthralled in this Squid Game saga, and hopefully this third act, once we do get it allegedly in the summer of this year of 2025, hopefully they can stick the landing with the final season, but we will have to see. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the second season of Squid Game. If you check this out on Netflix, hit us up and let us know what you think.